Okay, let's have a look at nominalisation. What actually is nominalisation? Well, firstly, it's turning a verb or process into a noun. So an action, something that the author's doing, and naming it as something. Once we turn it into a noun, that way we can put more describing words in front of it, we can expand it and do a lot more with it than we can a verb. So how do we actually use it in language analysis? Well, firstly, it gives us a specific name for our discussion of what authors are doing to create meaning. So we discuss, they might be creating a character, or they might be using statistics, or appealing to family values, or whatever it is they're doing. And then we can give that a specific name, because that's the author's verb. The verb is, the author is actually doing something. And then we want to give it a name by turning that action into a noun. And the reason we do this is because it helps us increase the sophistication of our writing quite easily. Let's have a look down here at what we're actually doing. In my horrendously awesome handwriting here, you can see in the red that in a paragraph we might be describing and explaining what the author does with evidence. So we might be saying something like, for instance, with this last piece, describing volunteers as heroic. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, and we put that as our evidence and our discussion. After that, we'd have a sentence that is our analysis sentence, and we're basically using this formula for our analysis sentence. This, as in pointing back to the description and explanation, or the evidence, does this for the audience. Now, that might not make a lot of sense at the moment, but basically the word "this" is a pointing word. It's pointing back to what we've just described. Okay, so the most simplistic way of writing that is just saying this makes the audience feel guilty, or this makes the audience see volunteers as being heroic. So the second "this" here is the effect. What's the effect of this stuff up here? And who is it affecting? It's affecting a specific audience. So what we want to do is, in our nominalisation, is we want to put a word in between this and our effect part of the sentence. And the reason we do that is because simple pointing is not very sophisticated. Just sort of saying, oh look, this over here does this stuff over here. What we want to do instead is actually give a name to what we've just described. So we could do that by saying this characterization, this logos, this personification, this strategy. Okay, and if you want some more ideas as to how you can do that, have a look at this 4.2, Improving Analysis Skills, and you'll see that there's a whole lot of ways that you can actually talk about effect. Okay, so if you want to look at some examples of these things here and how they fit between this part of the sentence and the effect part of the sentence, have a look at 3.2, Using Nominalisation. I've got plenty of examples that you can look at that show you how nominalisation can be used. Let's just drill in on one. That's a pretty good example as to how we can improve the sophistication of our writing. So in this little piece here that I've sort of taken from someone's work, it says, volunteers already elicits feelings of guilt from the audience. Those listeners not involved, blah, blah, blah. So they're talking about guilt. So I've highlighted there, it's this idea that the author is creating feelings of guilt. Let's have a look. So this is the description part. If we go and have a look back over here, that's the describe, evidence, explain. Then they've got this little phrase here, this appeal to guilt. So see how that's this giving it a name, and then they're going to talk about the effect. It's further reinforced, so they're actually linking it then to something else that's happening. Let's have a look over here and see how we could have written what this person's written here. So you could have simply said, Bennett goes on to suggest. So you've got your author, and you're just linking it to the next part. The more sophisticated way is to say, well, this, as in all of this stuff up here, is further reinforced by Bennett. But can you see that if you're just saying this, I know I keep saying the word this over and over again, it's not very specific. It doesn't really tell us, or the reader or the marker, it doesn't really tell us what you're talking about. It's just simply pointing at things and hoping that the reader themselves is making the connection. So rather than just leave it up to the reader to make the connection themselves, you add in between this and the verb is, you add a noun. And that noun is the nominalisation. It's the thing that describes all of this action up here that the author has been doing. So this appeal to guilt is further reinforced. So hopefully that it sort of describes why you would use a nominalisation and how nominalisation works. If you think about a paragraph, essentially what you're doing is you've got your topic sentence, or your topic sentences, which describe the argument and explain what you're going to be talking about in your paragraph, and then you essentially have got these little chunks of description and evidence followed by some sort of analysis. So it doesn't always have to have this. It could be, these appeals to, or the aim here is. Okay, so you've got basically these little sections, and you can have as many of those as you like in a paragraph. Probably, you want to really think about having 3 of those under your topic sentence, and then you want to link back to your contention or your purpose. That's how your paragraph works. So if you can get on board with nominalisation, you'll be able to up the ante in terms of your sophistication of your writing, and it also gets your marker thinking, well, this person actually really knows what they're talking about. They're using this meta language to describe or to give a name to the analysis and evidence and explanation that they're unpacking from the author's work.